This video is an overview of the new SM-10RE, one of the two designs we're releasing in our new forged Enduro line. We'll cover what's different about the RE versions of these wheels versus the Sprint line, why it matters, and why it's probably the best solution for your needs. We'll cover key features and we'll compare performance data versus the SM-10RS plus a forged competitor so you can really see why these wheels are changing the game. I'm Ryan March from Apex Wheels. This is my E46 M3 race car, equipped with some Enduro forged wheels as well, and I'm excited to dive into the details of what makes these Enduro wheels so special. We launched the forged Enduro line as part of our commitment to real performance. The wheel industry keeps pushing for lighter and lighter wheels, but if saving weight is the only priority, then strength can't be. We see strength compromised all the time in pursuit of lower advertised weights, and many cars are just ill-equipped as a result. Because many applications need more strength, not less, the Enduro line really prioritizes strength and stiffness, and it sacrifices some weight advantage in the process. It does that with a much thicker spoke, a much higher load rating, and an even beefier inner lip design. The SM-10RE is significantly stronger and stiffer in comparison to the SM-10RS, and even more so than most competitors. Adding the RE version of this wheel to our catalog ultimately gives drivers like yourself the choice to pick the best wheel for your specific needs. All right, so let's talk about who these wheels are actually for. The Enduro line is really meant to be the new de facto wheel choice for track day enthusiasts and racers alike. But here's the thing. The reality is that all types of drivers can really benefit from stronger and stiffer wheels. Let's get into the reasons why. Faster drivers put much more stress on wheels than intermediate and novice drivers do. And that stress is magnified through extra sticky tires and higher cornering Gs. If you add a splitter and a wing, that force is directly to get transferred to increased loads on the wheels, just as if the car got heavier. If that car is already heavy to start with, the loads can get really high really quick. Combine all those stresses together and you absolutely need a higher load rating wheel. Just as heavier vehicles and larger trucks need higher load rating tires to handle the increasing weight, motorsport applications also need wheel load ratings that get higher and higher progressively to keep up. So why should most enthusiasts first consider our stronger Enduro wheels as opposed to something lighter from the get-go? Well, think about it for a moment. How much faster is an intermediate driver at an HPD really going to be if they shed a little bit of weight? And what type of damage can they avoid long-term if they go with something stronger? Off-track incidents are a part of HPDs and races. It's an inevitable part of learning and improving man and machine. How many positions are racers giving up when they make contact with another car or go off track in mid-race? Are they actually finishing the race? And how much time are racers giving up on the clock when their wheels are flexing so much that it's changing their alignment significantly? The Enduro line trades a little extra weight for a lot more strength and stiffness. And for most people, that's going to be the better choice. So let's jump into the comparison section, focusing on the cold hard facts that help measure true performance of a wheel. We'll look at one of our new SM-10RE Enduro wheels, a comparable SM-10RS from our Sprint line, and a competitor. All three of these forged wheels on the table are 18x9 ET46 in a 5x130 bolt pattern, which is common for a front wheel for a Porsche. For this comparison, we 3D laser scanned the competitor's wheel and reverse engineered it to create an accurate 3D model that we can put through the same exact advanced FEA analysis that we run on our own wheels when developing them. This is the most apples to apples comparison for stress, strength, and stiffness. This is important because different companies have different FEA models, and they calculate stresses differently and have different safety margins. First, let's look at the weight of all three of these wheels. We've got an SM-10RS from our Sprint line at 18 pounds even. We have an SM-10RE from our Enduro line at 20.3 pounds. And last, we have a competitor's wheel at 18.5 pounds. As you can see, our Sprint line wheel is the lightest wheel on the table, and our Enduro wheel is naturally the heaviest. If you were only comparing the competition with the Enduro wheel and you ignored load ratings, you might consider the Enduro wheel to be uncompetitively heavy and the lighter competitor wheel to be superior. But now let's add the advertised load ratings in play. The competitor wheel here is labeled at 690 kg, which converts to 1521 pounds. The Sprint Line wheel is rated to 1,650 pounds, and the Enduro wheel is rated at a much higher 2,100 pounds. Now, to most people, it would look like the Sprint wheel and the competitor wheel are pretty similar. An extremely important note is that this Porsche application calls for a 735 kg load rating by JWL standards, which is equivalent to 1,620 pounds. Meaning, despite being engraved with a JWL logo signifying that it's compliant to the standard, the competitor's wheel does not meet the minimum load rating requirements that it claims to meet. Now, if we bring a computer-simulated stresses into the picture, we can really start to see things that the public can't see. We run lengthy series of simulations, and one of the final numbers we get is an average stress. That's great at summing up strength. If we first compare our own two wheels under the same simulated conditions, the Enduro wheel experiences the lowest stress, as it's easily the strongest of the two. This Sprint Line wheel's average stress is about 30% higher. The Enduro wheel's higher load rating allows it to take on considerably more load before it reaches its stress limit, by which point the Sprint Line wheel would have already failed. So now let's compare our Sprint Line wheel to the competitor wheel. Surprisingly, though the advertised load rating is only 8.5% lower than our Sprint Line wheel, the average stress that this competitor wheel incurs is about 30% higher. Since we use average stress to determine load ratings, if this was our own wheel, we'd instantly have to drop its load rating to under 1,200 pounds to make it accurately match how the other wheels here are rated. Considering that is grossly below minimum load called by the JWL for this specific Porsche application, we'd honestly never release it. Last, let's compare the stresses of our new Enduro wheel to that of the competition. Our load rating is approximately 40% higher than their advertised load rating, and that's quite impressive in itself. However, this still doesn't show you the true increase in strength between these two wheels. Because nothing is stopping a brand from incorrectly labeling a wheel with a load rating that is higher than accurate, it's tough to compare one wheel brand with another. What's shocking is that when you look at an average simulated stress, the competitor's wheel experiences about 90% more stress in comparison to our Enduro wheels. This significant delta in strength comes down to our superior engineering and FEA modeling that's been validated by third-party real-world testing, and the more accurate safety levels that we adhere to. This results in a product that's nearly twice as strong when calculated using the exact same test. So now let's add stiffness into the equation. We do this by modeling how much spokes bend under load, and how much that ultimately changes the angle of the wheel's barrel. That angle represents how much negative camber is lost due to the wheel's face flexing under a specified load. Wheels with low stiffness will flex more and lose more camber, and feel less direct as a result. In most performance applications, negative camber is dialed in to maximize grip in mid-corner, and to mitigate outer edge tire wear. Some companies will lead you to believe that simply being forged will make your wheel stiff and less flex than a cast or flow-formed wheel, but that's so far from the truth. First, cast and flow-form wheels are made from A356 aluminum, which is inherently stiffer than 6061 T6, which is commonly used for forged wheels like these. Second, it's the execution of a wheel design that matters more than the material itself. Forged wheels with very shallow spokes are floppy, simply put. Adding depth significantly increases stiffness, but depth costs money because it uses a lot more aluminum in the blank, and it requires a more custom blank like the ones that we use here at Apex. It also takes up brake caliper clearance, so you have to 3D laser scan a ton of vehicles and model out those brakes to use that space efficiently. Our Sprint wheel is over 30% stiffer than the competitor's wheels, while the Enduro wheel is over 60% stiffer. These are staggering numbers that contribute to real performance, yet these stiffness metrics are not transparently conveyed by wheel brands to enthusiasts to take into consideration during the buying process. Here at Apex, we're trying to change that. Whether you're looking at our Sprint wheel or our Enduro wheels, you can see the dramatic difference in spoke depth. It's undeniable. Translate that to the real world, and the stiffness difference is like losing a half a degree of negative camber just because one wheel is floppier than the next. Even an intermediate driver on the racetrack can recognize losing a half a degree of camber and what that feels like. And you're definitely going to notice that additional outer tire edge wear. To wrap this section up, the SM-10RE from our new Enduro line gives you around 90% more strength and over 60% more stiffness, with only about a 10% weight increase over the competition. What are you guys going to choose? And what is going to make a real difference in the real world? Remember, real performance is a measurable and comparable thing. At Apex, we believe that enthusiasts like yourself should demand more data and transparency from the industry. Otherwise, the wheels that you end up putting on your car are at risk of being purchased based solely on fashion and aesthetics. Now that we've discussed the immense strength and stiffness that the SM-10REs have to offer, I want to talk about some of the nitty-gritty details of what makes them special. Like all of our forged wheels here at Apex, these Enduro wheels are made from 6061 T6 aluminum from a 10,000-ton press. And they're made from our custom motorsport dies, which really allows our engineers to optimize the wheels to their fullest potential for each and every application intended. If we take a look at the front and back side of the wheel, you're going to notice much beefier inner and outer lips. In fact, the Sprint line had about 30% more material than our outgoing traditional lip. That was a huge step forward, but when it comes to this Enduro wheel, we've actually added over 50% more material. So this Enduro line is really taking things up a notch in critical areas that really protect you against potholes, jumping berms at the racetrack. There's over a pound of material in that lip location. And I want to mention that it's not just globbed on there. Our engineers are really strategically placing that in the right location to result in real performance that you can feel out on the racetrack. I also want to touch on some areas where we actually removed a material in order to remove some weight. We went really far to beef up this wheel, and so we also wanted to take a look at how we can make it as light as possible as well. The most obvious thing that sticks out to you, just like our Sprint line wheels, is the aggressive side milling. We take a lot of material out from the side of that spoke, and I know that side milling is something that you might see, across the industry. But if you look closely, there's a pretty massive disparity between one and another. Sometimes it's just a small tracer. Sometimes they're adding material to the back side of the spoke to actually give the illusion that they're taking material away. The next spot is the front pocketing in between the spokes. This is actually unique machining to the Enduro line. And so if you see that, you know you're looking at an Enduro wheel. Helps shave some weight as well. The next spot is going to be along the outer barrel. There's a lot of surface area there, and we decided not to paint that section of the wheel. You'd be surprised at actually how much weight that saves. These Enduro wheels actually do not accept center caps of any kind. If you're the type of enthusiast that wants to run an OEM center cap or an Apex center cap, then the Sprint line is definitely for you. These wheels are all about business, pure function. And when we decided to shave away that material, it really makes a big difference in terms of shedding some weight that's unnecessary. These SM-10RE Enduro wheels boast fantastic brake clearance, very similar to our Sprint line. Both spoke construction and barrel construction really supports that. We bring cars in, we do 3D brake scanning, and that really allows our engineers to optimize both spoke and barrel to clear as many brakes as possible. So whether you have an aftermarket kit or large OEM carbon ceramics, these wheels are going to do the job for you. Another functional feature that I want to point out about these Enduro wheels is our knurling along the barrel. This knurl beading really prevents the tire from slipping under heavy acceleration and, more importantly, under heavy braking zones. It's important to mention that we do not paint over our knurling. This keeps the knurling as sharp and functional as possible. There's a lot of other brands out there that may offer knurling, but when they paint over the barrel, it really fills up those holes, and you can feel when you run your finger along it that it's not being as effective as it could be. To wrap it up, as part of our commitment to real performance, we released the SM-10RE to truly deliver on strength and stiffness at an attainable price point. The SM-10RE's focus on strength is designed for drivers who know that they stress their wheels further, and they understand that every part of their car is a consumable when you push it past its limits. Its focused on increased stiffness is for drivers who appreciate how stiffer bushings and solid mounts on a car translate to a sharper and more direct feel. You can't design one wheel that's optimized for every type of enthusiast use case. If you want the lightest wheels, then you'll want to get our SM-10RS within our Sprint line. If you want more stiffness, strength, and durability, then you'll definitely want to get our SM-10RE in our Enduro line. If you guys want to learn more about our SM-10RE wheels, what sizes we're going to be offering them in, and different finishes that are going to be available, check out the specifications table on our website. Until then, please like and subscribe. We really appreciate you watching the video today and hope you learned something. I'm Ryan, and I can't wait to see you guys out at the racetrack with your new Enduro wheels.